boy, the paper might have hit the thumbs up. It was, there you go, go left. I like that. Yeah, there you go. All right, good. Okay. Good evening, board members and residents. I'd like to call to order our regular board meeting for Monday, August 10th, 2026. And I would ask that everyone present please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Witt, will you please take the roll call?
Yes, Mr. Batkins.
Here.
Mr. Rado. Here. Mr. Olgiati.
Here.
Ms. Rabeau.
Here.
Mr. Tominello.
Here.
Mr. Witt. Here. Mr. Verkest.
Here. Thank you, board. Next on our agenda, the approval of the consent agenda, including approval of the regular board meeting minutes of July 20th, 2026, approval of the bills in the amount of $873,304.75, and approval of the June 2026 revenue and expenditure report. Unless there are any changes, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Their support.
Support.
All right, I got motion by Mr. Olgiati with support by Mr. Tominello. Discussion, board members. Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, board. Next is the approval of the regular agenda. I am not aware of any changes. Are there any changes? If not, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
There's support.
Support.
Got a motion by Mr. Olgiati with support by Mr. Badkins to approve the agenda. Discussion. Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, board. Next is announcements. I have a few announcements. First, I want to thank everyone who came out to vote last week. I also want to thank voters for approving and supporting the police and fire millage renewal. Our third and final summer concert for this year is Thursday, August 27th at Miller Park. Harmonic Swell will be the band that's playing. For information, you can visit the Parks and Rec Facebook page or the township website. The library has many great events coming up. For more information on these events, you can visit the library website, htlibrary.org, or call them 586-329-1261. And for more information on every one of these events, as well as other township events, you can always call the supervisor's office, 586-466-1445, or visit our website at www.harrisontownshipmi.gov. Any other announcements?
If I could, Mr. Supervisor, just want to say thank you again also to everyone that came out and voted. Having 11 days of voting is a long time, but I want to thank the staff of the clerk's office, my deputy, and the election specialist who do a ton of work. But the rest of the township always kicks in, whether it's, accounting department helping us with envelopes, water and sewer delivering election supplies, treasurer's office taking questions that we normally handle, but we have a line, so they're taking care of it. So everyone comes together, and we did have almost 10% increase in turnout in a primary election compared to 2 years ago. So it was good. We doubled our early voting turnout as well. So it seemed to be a really well-received election. I'm glad that, I wish everyone voted, but I was glad to see an increase in voting.
Absolutely. Very smooth, including a last-minute problem with our ramp that the clerk jumped into action. No serious challenge for a man who's clerk of the year for the state of Michigan.
Yeah.
But I'm sure many other clerks would have just withered and with a challenge.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Any other announcements? Okay, hearing none, we'll move forward on our agenda to item D1 from the fire department. Board members, the fire department is requesting approval to purchase 4 Motorola APX 6000 series portable radios to replace 4 Motorola PS 2500 portable radios. Radios are discontinued and no longer supported. This update will give us, in the fire department, the same technology across all of our portable radios. This is a sole vendor purchase with a discounted sale price included in the attached quote. There aren't competitive bids because the county on a regional basis basically goes out for this work and bids it collectively. So if we want to be on the same system as everyone else, this is the direction we go. So
Make a motion to approve the purchase of the Motorola radios as requested.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Witt with support by Mr. Brado. Discussion.
Just a quick question. What happens to the old radios? They just throw them away, or can they recycle them, or can they sell them, or?
Yeah, so typically, to be fair, I can't, promise this answer, but historically, they go back to the county, and the county manages the radio program. So whether they're repurposed, whether they're donated to a third world country, it's kind of like we work with them, and the idea being that we want to make sure that, Harrison Township, Clinton Township, Chesterfield Township, we all have the same radios. So they really do manage that. So short answer is I'm not sure, but the longer answer is historically we give them back to the county.
Great, thanks.
Any other discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next is from the Water and Sewer Department. We have the Public Services Director here. So this is regarding awarding a contract. In 2023, Harrison Township was awarded a grant through the Defense Community Infrastructure Program, or DSIP. After 3 years of extensive design, redesign, meetings, and permitting, we were able to put the Prentice Sewer Station out for bid. We received 3 bids. Z Contractors was the low bid. We're ready to move forward with awarding.
Whoa. Lee?
Z.
Okay. Lee was third.
Z is in Z. Yep.
My
Sorry.
left ear's stuffy.
Yeah, no problem. Z Contractors was the low bid. We are ready to move forward with awarding the bid. Wade Trim did all the engineering for this, so we continue to utilize them through this bidding process. They are recommending a 5% contingency to cover changed conditions or construction extras that we might encounter during the project. Originally, $320,000 was approved as the township's obligation for the project, which included the grant application, design engineering. To date, we have spent $161,893.30 on the application, engineering, and bid assistance. We will have an additional construction engineering quote once the project is awarded and a construction schedule is submitted by the contractor. This will be brought back to the board for approval. So we've got costs laid out here in the agenda item. The bid award is $1,346,742. The grant that we received from the federal government was $1,093,251. The township's share, $253,491, and the proposed contingency at 5% is a little over $67,000. Proposed recommendation or board action is to approve the Prentice Pump Station Rehabilitation and Construction, awarding the low bidder Z Contractors for $1,346,742. $1,093,251 to be covered by the DSIP grant, and the township's already approved obligation of $320,828.10, which includes our match plus the contingency.
So I'm happy to make a motion, but I think as a point of clarification, the township has already spent 160 that was part of that original.
320.
So but that 320 is still an additional amount that we need to approve because we're approving 253 plus the 67. So
We already approved the 320. Back when we accepted this award, I believe the board action was to approve the 320.
Maybe I misunderstood, because when I talked to Justin, I thought we already spent some of the money and we needed.
We spent some of the 320, but the 320 was already approved, as I understand it. we expect a future board action to approve that additional amount,
Yeah.
correct? Once we get the construction engineering? Well, hang on, hold on. It'd be better if you approached thought it was quicker than that, I'm sorry.
So the construction engineering will be separate from what has been spent in the 161 already?
That'll come in a
It'll
future
come in a future proposal.
agenda item, yep.
Yeah, so currently we have to still cover 320, 828, and we've spent 161. So 161 of the original 320. So I guess the difference between the 320 and 161, we'll say 160 plus an additional 94.
Okay,
So we approved, the way I understood it was we approved an amount.
320,
Right.
correct? That was the original amount that we
But
thought.
construction engineering, or design engineering went longer because of some of the
BABA.
jump through COVID, BABA
Yep.
stuff.
Yep,
And so we spent more money there. That's all. It was just, this is over the 320 than what was approved. So, because these numbers sort of add up to 320, but I just want to be clear that like, that's just a weird fluke. That's not, the 160 we already spent isn't included in this this cost calculation. on
Right,
the
so
sheet.
technically we're 161 in the hole. So we would have to spend the original 320 minus 161 plus the 320 that we're asking for tonight.
gotcha. Is that clear? Approximately,
So
Plus
we were,
whatever construction.
plus some
engineering is.
additional construction.
But
So
again,
we
this
were-
is a 1.5, $1.7 million pump station that we're getting for hopefully around $500,000.
so we were thinking we would spend 320, but now we're bumping it to 480.
Yeah, and those
Correct.
numbers were 3+ years ago, and they
Yeah.
were based off a third-party estimate. There wasn't any engineering done to that point.
And one of the major things that we ran into is, because this is a federal grant, the BABA, B-A-B-A is,
Build
Yeah,
America, buy
Buy
America.
America.
Build America. We have made a decision, we made a decision several years ago to standardize the pumps in our sanitary sewer pump stations and go with Flight, the brand pump. Kind of thinking that, maybe they're interchangeable. If I need a 20-horse pump, I can have a 20-horse pump or whatever on the shelf, ready to go. Flight pumps are made in, I believe, Sweden. And so one of the things we ran into is we initially designed, because of the BABA Act, we couldn't use Flight pumps, but later we were able to figure out how to do. There was some additional engineering that went into all of this in order to satisfy our needs as well as the grant requirements. So, we're basically approving awarding this to Z contractors, and we're approving the additional amount of one, I don't have the exact,
No, it's like 320.
$320,828.10.
That's including contingency also. That
Correct.
320,
Correct.
so
That
if we don't
includes
use the 5%
contingency.
contingency,
Correct.
it's 260, 253, basically.
Correct, yep, that's exactly it,
And so I'll make a motion to approve the awarding of the contract as proposed.
right? There's support,
I'll support it.
okay? Discussion,
Can we see a copy of the draft contract before it goes out?
sure.
Who will that come from?
I guess it would come from,
Or Wade Trim will put it together.
yeah,
Can I please get a copy of it? I'm sure it's in there, all the tariff language that we're gonna be dealing with, markups and all that stuff. I just would like to see it, and just for everybody's point of record, I did speak to the gentleman who quoted this over at Z Contracting today. I got some more information out of him. they're more than qualified to do this job.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I think that did they do Coleridge?
No, they did Riverbank Pump Station.
Okay.
They did Moon Street Bridge. They did South River Road Bridge. But this is right now.
Yeah, they're a good contractor, so.
Yeah. But just the same, we would value your input based on your career experience with these contracts, so,
If it's okay, I would like to see it.
yeah, no, it's more than okay, preferred. Good, so you've got that when that contract comes through? Yep, all right, good. These funds all come from the Water and Sewer Department.
And again, this is a grant we got that's covering over $1 million of a pump station that we needed to do no matter what.
Correct. The idea behind that grant was the DSIP, Defense Community Infrastructure Program. The idea being, we are a defense community. We support Selfridge. The sanitary sewer flow from Selfridge flows through this pump station, so this is a part of that kind of critical infrastructure that might exist outside the base, but still supports the base mission. So that's basically how we got almost $1.1 million in a federal grant. Okay, lots of discussion there. Further discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next is regarding the Treasurer's Office.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. On July 20th, at the July 20th Board of Directors meeting, I asked the Board of Directors to allow the Treasurer's Office to proceed with interviews to select a candidate for the account bookkeeper position in the Treasurer's Office. Then return with the name of the candidate selected. After interviews by Mr. Witt, Mr. Repast, Ms. Troyer, and myself, we selected Maria Stewart for the position with a start date of 8/20. And I'd be looking for a recommendation to hire Maria Stewart for the position of account bookkeeper with a start date of 9/20.
I'll make that motion.
There's support.
$820, right?
820, yep. Is there support?
Support.
Okay, we got a motion with support, and keep in mind that, first I'll say, we interviewed several worthy and qualified candidates. And as much as, you can ask the right questions and interview and go through the process, this position is a union position and there is a probationary period. It's 90 working days, which works out to be a little bit less than 5 months. So, one step in this is approving this. The second step is seeing how the person performs during that probationary period. So, all right, got a motion with support. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next is an agenda item from the clerk's office.
Yeah, from the clerk's office, doing a lot of work there. So this is the ordinance, the zoning ordinance that really is from the planning commission, that they've gone through all that process with, as far as introducing and adopting this ordinance, making recommendations to the board. The board had their own workshop on the recommendations, and our July 6th meeting, this ordinance was introduced, which means our zoning ordinances adopts a new zoning map, and goes through all those changes, including the short-term rental issue that we had discussed as well. So at this time, if the board would like, we can adopt the ordinance, and then it does go into effect 7 days after publication.
All right, is there a motion to adopt ordinance number 308.9? Is there support?
Support the motion.
Discussion on the motion. And we had a workshop on this. This has been going on at Planning Commission for a long time. We introduced this at least a month ago. So if there's more to be said, but if there is, any discussion?
I was talking to Mr. Witt earlier regarding, it's the houses on South River Road, that were included in the short-term rental is permitted with a special land use.
Correct. Special land use being an important part of that, but yes, sir.
Yep. And does this help us with enforcing people that are doing it at my house?
Yeah, so, I don't know that it changes enforcement, so let's first talk about, we can't say no to anything. We have to allow certain things to occur, but we can, I narrow down where those things are allowed to occur. So I wouldn't say that we're adopting is specifically for homes on South River Road. We're adopting this, or if we adopt this ordinance, we'd be allowing some homes on South River Road based on the fact that they're zoned waterfront. You know, there used to be a single-family home right next to the North Star Sail Club, right? That would be an example of one of those homes that might be in a district where if you buy that home, you kind of recognize that it's not a single-family residential district. And, you know, there's something attractive about being on the Clinton River, but there's the potential for additional noise or, you know, disruption that doesn't completely mirror a single-family residential. If you want to do it, special land use, so you can't just say, I'm on the Clinton River. Okay, well, let's make sure that this is an area where it's compatible. But I think more importantly is adopting this ordinance and saying that there are no single-family residential districts where short-term rentals are allowed is truly powerful from an enforcement standpoint. This board is saying, we don't believe that short-term rentals are compatible with a single-family residential use. Whether it happened to be on a river, on a canal, on the lake, wherever it is. If it's single-family, we just don't think it's a compatible use. So I do think this adoption is gonna lead to, and to be fair, it's gonna lead to future discussions regarding that enforcement. So let's just talk about that for a minute. I think, Mr. Tominelli, you had mentioned that you were associated with a property in another municipality where they enacted this. They talked about some sort of a grace period, maybe a delay in enforcing. You know, today, we're adopting this. It takes effect, would you say, 30 days?
I think it's 7 days after.
Okay. So, you know, basically, somebody has a home that they've rented sometime in September. They've made the deposit. Maybe they're traveling. Maybe it's for a wedding or certain plans. And so we're not looking to say, okay, the next day that this is in place, we're going to take a strict enforcement on this. There's maybe a grace period, probably a couple of those different things. In discussions within the office, leading up to this, I had been contacted by a government affairs person from one of the short-term rental companies. So my intention is to kind of reach out to them, have a discussion with them to say, you know, they've encountered this before. I'm not looking to do something, I don't think we want to be any different than anyone else. We're just saying this is just not a good long-term use of single-family homes. So there is a need to kind of have that discussion in the future of how long of a grace period we might have.
And again, I think it's important to note that places that are currently being operated as short-term rentals are not a approved use in those as they exist today prior to the zoning ordinance being in place.
Right.
It is an illegal use of those buildings as we stand today. These are not grandfathered in. These are properties that were doing illegal things.
Well,
Not against the
doing
zoning-
things contrary to our
contrary to the
zoning
zoning, yeah.
Correct.
Clearer way to say it.
And we've talked about this for some time, but we've chosen to move forward with this based on the fact that a number of other municipalities that have taken this approach have kind of already, you know, sort of plowed the ground, if you will, to, you know, maybe they all went all the way up to the state Supreme Court to get a ruling to say, you know, a rental is like a hotel, which is not a residential use. So that's been established at the state level. So, you know, maybe 3-4 months ago, I asked this board to approve legal fees for one of the law firms that is representing us in appeals associated with cannabis growers and whether or not that's a agricultural use, commercial use, industrial use. We're kind of plowing that ground. We chose to stay out of this until somebody else sort of plowed the ground. We know now through case law that we can take this action with a pretty sound legal standing. So hopefully that answers your question. Good? All right, any other discussion regarding short-term rentals? Hearing none, we'll open the floor for public comment.
C. William Bardell, 30-year resident, clean cut, do-gooder boy next door. I would hope that there would be some type of enforcement. This short-term rental I've been complaining about for 4+ years. When I got a FOIA on them, they got 1 ticket in 4 years. So just garbage day's Thursday. This hot dog put it out today, 4 days ahead of time for a gift for everybody to look at. So they definitely don't respect the township. So any movement's good, but again, I don't want to, I wouldn't hand them an olive branch because we've been disrespected by these Airbnbs. And the residents deserve better. We got to do something about this blight. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, we'll close the floor for public comment. I wouldn't necessarily categorize every property owner that engages in short-term rentals as oriented toward blight or being disruptive, but the fact remains that there are several property owners that are not kind to their neighbors, and I think our enforcement on this is going to be gradual, but increasing over a period of time. Best I can answer that resident's question, comments. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we've got a motion by Mr. Tominello with support by Mr. Olgiati to adopt this ordinance. Mr. Witt, will you please take a roll call?
Mr. Tominello?
Yes.
Mr. Olgiati?
Yes.
Mr. Backen?
Yes.
Mr. Brado?
Yes.
Ms. Rebo?
Yes.
Mr. Witt? Yes. Mr. Burkowski?
Yes, thank you. Next on our agenda is item H1. Board members, since our electrical inspector retired, the part-time inspector that we have has only been able to give us 2 days, 2 half-days, frankly. We have had an electrical inspector fill in for vacations and illnesses for the past several years, Mr. Robert Hay. He has agreed to commit to 4 hours per week, which would give us the coverage we need. I'm requesting approval to hire Robert Hay as a part-time electrical inspector for approximately 4 hours per week. And that fee is, the hourly rate is per our policy. Okay, is there support? Support. Got a motion by Mr. Batkins with support by Mr. Brado. I think we've got, basically, this gives us 4 hours Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That allows the ladies in the building department to schedule these inspections, and we believe that coverage that we need to keep up with the volume of work we have. Any discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next, item H2, regarding one of our policies. Board members, we recently received a request from an employee to take an unpaid leave associated with maternity leave. The collective bargaining agreement allows for this, and also our FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act policy allows this. However, the FMLA policy was written about 23 years ago when our employees had sick leave banks. Through recent negotiations, the banks have been greatly reduced. Policy 2.25 deals with FMLA leave. I'm proposing that we make 2 changes to the policy. Number one, when we talk about using paid leave prior to FMLA, the policy used to say the employee must take any unused paid time off. I'm proposing we revise that to the employee may take any unused paid time off. Again, this kind of reverts back to the fact that there was a time when maybe an employee might have 15 weeks of paid leave, and so there was a requirement that they had to do that. The second part of this is benefits during leave. There are laws, if the federal law, the FMLA, Federal Medical Leave Act, defines certain things, but it says that if an employee is taking this kind of unpaid leave for FMLA, there's certain benefits that might not accrue. But if the employer says they don't accrue, they have to basically match what other policies, other types of leave. So if you're on unpaid leave, you don't get pension service credit. The contracts allow that maybe a young family has a newborn child, they can take up to 1 year of unpaid leave for, whatever that involves, whether it's bonding or whatever, but they don't get credit. They have to, if they want to retire in 25 years, they take a year off, they've got to wait 26 years. So I'm just suggesting in the second part that during FML leave, we add language saying benefits such as pension service credit, so on and so forth, which is paid working or using sick, or paid time off days. So minor changes, kind of bringing up our policy to reflect what our contract shows. So I'll be looking for a motion to approve these two changes to policy 2.25 as presented. Or if there's any discussion or questions.
Has to be discussion with the union before you can make those changes, or?
Yes, good question. So this is not modifying the collective bargaining agreement. The FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act, is a federal thing. We can't, to the best of my knowledge, I can't have a policy that violates FMLA, right? But some parts of FMLA say you must do this. Some parts of that policy say you may do this. And I think the two are kind of independent of each other. So we began this discussion with the union suggesting that maybe we had to modify the collective bargaining agreement. But based on the path that we've traveled and getting to where we are today, both the township and the union agree that this policy is independent of PBA.
That being said, I'll make the motion.
All right, there's support.
Support.
A motion by Mr. Olgiati with support by Ms. Rabot. Any discussion on motion?
I guess using paid leave, what, you said it, and sorry, I didn't.
It's okay.
Hear it.
Yeah.
The employee must.
It used to be must. It's
Well,
currently must.
Changing that to must to may,
Yep.
was the thought process when that was written that they have to use their time that they have accrued?
Yeah, so when this was written, the contract that was in place at that time allowed you to accumulate sick time. So if you get to the end of the year and maybe you have 3 days left, you can put it into the bank. And then next year, maybe you have 4 days left. Now you've got 7, and you can keep accumulating this. So we had long-term employees with very, very large banks, and in essence, that became a liability. Maybe you accumulated that when you were making $16 an hour, and you got it cashed out when you were retiring making $25. We've since revised the contract to say that you could use your sick time. If you get to the end of the year and you don't use all your sick time, you get it paid out at 50%. So there's still an incentive to save it, because if you don't need a sick day, you get some money at the end of the year. The difference here, though, is employee A may have a financial need. They may be in a financial situation where I want to take some time off, in this case, for maternity leave to bond with my child, but I've got bills to pay. But employee B may have a spouse that's a good wage earner, if you will, and they may say, I don't really want to spend all my sick time to pay my bills because I want to make sure that if my child care provider has an illness, I have the ability to take a day off. So we don't want to, we're trying not to bind that. There was a time when we had more employees that were single wage earners, but we're seeing now kind of a shift in that to where with, with females being able to earn a greater amount, more people working outside the home, they value that time off if they need it. So that was the reason for this change.
Okay, understood.
Okay? Any other discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next is regarding a remote work policy. So as we talked about this issue with people on, leave, we have come to realize that remote work is becoming a part of, just a part of our society today. Public employment doesn't lend itself as easily to remote work, but we did learn with COVID that there can be unexpected circumstances that can require us to utilize technology to complete our responsibility. There are instances when remote work can be used for the benefit of the employee and the township. One of our employees will soon be on maternity leave, and we anticipate lending her a laptop to allow her to keep up with tasks after her short-term disability leave expires. So I reached out to our labor attorney. He proposed a remote work policy. It is a thorough policy, and I think it addresses multiple situations, both planned and unplanned. I believe it will help reduce liability, clearly define responsibilities. I recommend the adoption of this policy. It is a lengthy and detailed policy. And after reviewing the policy, our clerk and I had a discussion about one particular section on page 178. So if I might scroll down there, there is a line there that says, if part of a bargaining unit if the employee is part of a bargaining unit, is there a letter of agreement, yes or no? If yes, please attach. If no, the arrangement may not occur. I believe this is an overly restricted line, restrictive. So I don't believe that we're going to have a lot of demands for remote work. But I also recognize that in today's society, when we look at hiring new employees, in the private sector, there are more opportunities. If you're in a clerical position or some sort of a kind of a behind-the-desk position, that you might be able to do remote work. So I think it's important that we have these. But I also think that if we have an urgent need to be able to get something done and give somebody a laptop to take home for an unexpected illness or an accident, having the need to have a letter of agreement with the bargaining unit could be, something that takes weeks to accomplish. So I believe, I'm proposing that we adopt this policy, removing that requirement for a letter of agreement.
Excuse me, Mr. Burkett.
Yes.
I look at this on a different form than you do.
Okay.
What section is it?
It's page 178, but, let's see.
It's Appendix A underneath there, Rob. Of that.
Yeah, it's second page of Appendix A, if that helps. And we had Adam and I had a fairly lengthy discussion saying, I don't have a problem having some written agreement, but I perceive a letter of agreement as it pertains to a bargaining unit as something formal that I have to meet with the union, they vote on it, we vote on it, and if I've got, if Mrs. Smith's in a car accident, and she breaks a leg, and she says, I can't come in, but I could do these important tasks from home with a laptop, I feel like needing that letter of agreement could involve a length of time that might be disadvantageous, I guess if that's the word. I'm okay with some written agreement. I don't think we're going to force Mrs. Smith. I'm not going to go to her home and say, take this laptop and you shall do work. Maybe she can't do the work. But I feel like it's permissive, but I don't feel like I have to have a letter of agreement. I feel like that, let me say this. I feel like this policy is written with lots of stuff to protect us from, what I perceive as, workers' compensation. Hey, I was working at home, I got up from the couch, I tripped over my dog, and now I want workers' compensation. I feel like there's a lot of language in here that defines those things to prevent those kinds of liabilities.
And this was drafted by Labor Council.
Correct.
Okay, I didn't know if we said that.
Yeah, our labor attorney did draft that.
So, Mr. Husted,
Yeah, short-term disability,
But
correct.
you just said if somebody broke their leg and they're at home, it means they're getting paid for being at home.
I was-
Which means they can't work.
Correct, yeah, this does not,
Just trying to make
this
sure
policy
that
does
we're
not
straight with
superside
that. Okay.
these other things. So
Okay,
to
we'll
be
make sure of
fair,
that.
if you're on short-term disability,
Right.
But if the restriction is you can't drive to work under the disability,
But
but
if
you
you
can,
can't
but you,
drive-
hold on.
Go ahead.
But if you can work, but you could work otherwise, that person, we could make an arrangement where there was a mutual agreement, working with the insurer, to make sure they're not double dipping, all those kind of things. That's all in here, right?
Well, but maybe then that becomes an issue.
it could. So what we learned was that that like a disability insurance carrier may allow intermittent leave, right? So maybe they're saying, okay, we're paying you X percent per day because you're disabled. But maybe you say, well, I could do some work remotely if possible. The insurance carrier might be inclined to say, well, depending on the
Yeah, you're
circumstances,
absolutely
we
right.
approve that, right?
And maybe it's a half a day.
It could be, but they're saying like, hey, then we're not paying, that saves us money, and it encourages someone who wants to come back to work to get back to work. What we learned was that there are certain types of disability leaves, such as maternity leave, that cannot be. Maternity leave, they said, you can either work or you can't work. So this policy is, let me just say this, we're gonna celebrate 200 years in less than a year from now. We've never needed this policy before. I don't expect this policy to be utilized often. I believe it's a tool that we're putting in our toolbox to give us the ability to be able to deal with certain circumstances should the need arise. Any other discussion?
So if a person's off on maternity leave, the township is paying them,
No,
No.
the insurance carriers pay. We pay for insurance.
so the insurance carrier's paying them.
Correct.
For how long?
Depends on what their doctor says, but as a general rule, I think it's typically 6 weeks for a natural birth, 8 weeks for cesarean.
Okay.
And obviously, that can vary based on circumstances and conditions, but I would say that's probably a normal,
And when we're talking about disabilities, ultimately, we defer to medical, right? Like that's, we're not putting people in a position where they're gonna get hurt more.
yeah, nothing happens without doctor's notes or permission or so forth. But one of the things that does occur, whether it's through the contract or through the policy that we just talked about, there can be unpaid leave of absence. And they're so varied, it becomes difficult. Mrs. Smith may give birth to a child and says, I want to take 1 year off and bond with that child. Our contract allows for that. Mr. Jones may say, I have a father who lives in the Upper Peninsula, and once a week I have to drive up there and assist him with certain duties. That would be kind of an FMLA thing, where it's sort of an intermittent leave. But there could be a scenario where the guy says, it takes me a day to drive up there and a day to drive back, but if I had a laptop with me, I could accomplish this daily task. It could be beneficial to us, it could be beneficial to them. But we want to make sure we have a policy so that if we do that, we're not running with scissors. We say, okay, you fill out, you write a written request, we approve it. Any other discussion, or is there a motion?
Is there any way to get a return to work date?
I'm sorry?
A return to work date on this document? You said you don't want them signing a letter of agreement? What was that on page 170?
178. Yeah, so a return to work isn't really up to us. So it's either A, up to a doctor, or B, it's up to the employee depending on what request. FMLA has a limit of 13 weeks. The collective bargaining agreement for the majority of our employees gives them up to a year for certain types of leaves. Could be maternity leave, it could be that a male employee requests a year of unpaid leave because of the birth of a child, or I think it's worded to be, it could be adoption.
And
so
even,
forth.
and even then, to your specific question, Brian, the contracts that are, because most of our employees are, covered by a collective bargaining agreement, all those types of leaves that the supervisor referenced have specific notification requirements, doctor requirements for updating for like when to expect a return to work. And that kind of stuff. So that's covered in other areas, I guess.
It's already defined.
Yeah.
It's
There's
already
also-
defined, yeah, in our FMLA policy or collective bargaining.
There's also expiration or review date for this contract.
Yeah, for
So-
this agreement, yeah.
Yeah, for this agreement. So if somebody is using this agreement, there is an expiration date that you would put in there. So essentially, that would be, unless they're using FMLA for some reason, that would be their return to work date, if I'm understanding that correctly.
I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, I like to think that it wouldn't be opposite of what you thought, where you guys are gonna get barraged with, a pregnancy and having a baby, that's a big deal. There's
Sure.
people out there getting 12 weeks, husbands are getting 12 weeks, that's good bonding time. I understand all that. I just,
So let's talk about this. Today, if an employee says, let me back up a step. As a municipality goes, we're not large, we're not small. No department is comprised of 20 employees. In a lot of departments, we might have 2 employees, maybe accounting, right? Currently, we have 2 ladies that handle all of the accounting responsibilities with a manager. One person goes on a maternity leave, you've cut the workforce by 1/3. And we recognize that as technology's increased, there may be an opportunity. That person, we can't deny them if they say, I want to take a year of unpaid leave. I want to take 6 months of unpaid leave. Contract allows for it. What we're saying is there could be a scenario where we say, okay, that person might say, but I'm interested or willing to perform some tasks, something in between for a limited period of time. If they do, and if it's beneficial to us, and it's beneficial to them, and it's allowable, whether it's through the contract or the policy, we believe we should have another policy that dictates this is what you have to do and this is what you can't do, so that someone doesn't take advantage of it. Right now, if we said, oh, sure, go ahead, take the laptop home and you can work a couple hours a day, we have certain exposures because we don't have a policy that defines what their responsibilities are. That's in essence really what we're looking to adopt. But this doesn't make remote work mandatory. If you read through it, there's like one whole section that's emergency related. To be fair, during COVID, we all worked remote, but we really didn't have a policy that dictated what the rules were. This policy would help us to define that so that we minimize our liability should someone try to exploit.
And this is something that we can always come back to,
For sure.
right? If
Absolutely.
it's
We
not
can always
working
adjust.
out, you can always draft.
Yep. Say, hey, you know what, we tried this out and we realized that
Yeah.
we should add this other section that addresses this situation.
I think it's important that we look at trends, things that are happening, especially when we're trying to hire, not, when you said, the private sector, like, we just can't beat that sometimes.
You're correct.
We just can't do it. And I think that this is smart, and I think that it puts you all in the office and in a good position to kind of feel for it, because this is happening out there. And
Correct.
And it's not going away.
I feel
So-
it's irresponsible not to have a policy.
I think it's smart.
But it could come in time that we realize we need to modify a section of it
Yes.
because we hadn't considered this. Having said that, it did come from our labor attorney who's probably, drafted these for other employers, public and private. So, I feel like we're on the right track here anyway. Any other discussion or is there a motion? And with the one strike
Amendment to
Yep.
the, as discussed.
or letter of agreement.
prior discussion.
Okay, is there support?
Support.
We've got a motion by Mr. Tominella with support by Ms. Rabot. We had a fair amount of discussion. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Board. Okay, next, item H4 regarding a millage resolution. Board members, I have talked about proposing a grant match millage question for several years. I looked back at our records for the last 10 years, and these are approximate. found that we've spent over $3.3 million to secure grants for over $20 million. Keep in mind that the majority of those grants are federal, state, and local funds that are funded by our taxes and fees. So in essence, if we want to get our share of the money we have already paid, we need to pay more. I'm going to pause here. I'm not a big fan of grants. Grants have, I'm a big fan of private sector grants when someone's successful in life and they decide to set aside millions or billions of dollars and they want to do something good for society, I think that's awesome. When someone in Lansing or Washington DC decides to say, I'm going to take the taxes you already paid and you can have them back, but you got to meet this criteria or jump through these hoops, I don't like that. Unfortunately, that's the trend we're seeing, and it's going more and more in that direction. If we just look at the repaving of Jefferson at Shook, which some board members might recall, we actually bonded for that match. We took North River Road that was recently repaved, and Jefferson between Metro Parkway and South River Road, which is torturing our residents because it's down to one lane. We look at those three projects, we provided over $1.8 million in matching funds, but we were able to get over $11 million in total road repairs completed and funded. If we say we're not going to compete for these funds, we're not going to ask for these TIP funds, Transportation Improvement Program funds, they just go to another municipality. They're not slated for Harrison Township. They're slated for southeastern Michigan. They're competitively awarded. We spend money just to get these grants, but we have to come up with a match. For these three projects, our share was approximately 10%. They're typically funded at 80% federal, 20% local, and the county says, since they're the local road agency for townships, they'll put in 10% if we put in 10%. So we spend $1, we get $10 in road improvements. Harrison Township is the only municipality in Macomb County that does not collect a general fund millage. I believe having millages with dedicated purposes helps prevent current and future administrations from misusing tax revenue. You pay a fire millage, it goes to the fire. You pay a police millage, it's for police. You pay just a general, say, just give me 8 mills and I'll decide where it goes. I feel like that's taking away control from the voters. Based on that idea, I believe having a millage dedicated to funding grant matches is a transparent way to make sure we can compete for grants. I also believe asking for the millage for a limited time, in this case 4 years, is the way to ask voters to approve the idea for a trial period. If we generate too much in 4 years, we might not ask for a renewal. We might skip a renewal because we may have a surplus. Based on this, I recommend that we adopt the resolution to place a grant match millage on the November 3rd ballot. I want to add that when we talk about a millage, we are not saying to any resident of Harrison Township that you must pay a tax. We're proposing an idea to the voters, to the residents of the township, and they get to decide on their own. I've said it, I'm sure, too many times in the past, but I've never voted on my state or federal income tax. I don't have any control over the gas tax I pay. I have very, very limited control over most any tax that I pay. But this is one where we're not saying to the residents, you're going to have to pay this tax. We're giving them the opportunity to weigh in on the November ballot as to whether or not they would like to consider this. That's one. Second thing is since I submitted this agenda item, I've given thought to the amount, and I believe that maybe what I proposed at the time, I've talked about the $500,000 for quite some time, but a $500,000 for 4 years generates about $657,000 per year. And I should have, yeah, I'm suggesting, we're at 8.7 mils. I'm suggesting instead of 0.5, that we might ask for 0.3, which generates about 294.
394.
394. Okay. 394 a year. these are restricted funds. They can only be spent to match grants. But again, just in the last 2 years, the majority of that, what was it, 1.8 million? It was about 1.2 million for Jefferson and North River Road. And I think 2028 or 2029 is the second half of North River Road, going from Bridgeview all the way to the very end. We've been placed on that budget, based on future transportation improvement, funding. We're in the middle of a $3.5 million pedestrian bridge over the spillway. The trend is going in that direction. I think it's a reasonable request to the residents. I'm not asking for 0.3 of a mil to go to the general fund, even though the majority of our peers in Macomb County have approximately 0.7 of 1 mil, pretty typical for a general fund millage that voters have no say over. This is us saying, let us use this money to get more grants.
And we've been able to fund grants longer than our income has suggested we should have been able to, because we've saved in the past, because we've cut on things, because we run lean. But over the time, Lansing has made, in my opinion, irresponsible cuts to revenue sharing after the promise was, well, we'll take the money, but we're going to give it back to you so you can fund it just the way it was. And the trend is to take, but, oh, don't worry, we're going to offer a special grant that you can apply for and then you get it back. But there is a match required. So that's just the situation we've been faced in. To the supervisor's point, no is the second best answer that residents can give on this. It gives us guidance. You know?
Yeah, and we know what to apply for and what not to apply for.
So just two questions for real quick. So this money, if they approve it, can be utilized for infrastructure and roads, correct?
We're not saying, we're saying it could be anything. It could be any grant. It could be roads, could be infrastructure, it could be, typically the grants that we receive, let's say, for example, maybe the state says, we're gonna give you 50-50 on a fire truck. You give up 50%, we'll give you the other half to buy a new fire truck. That could be the grant. We're not tying, I guess we're not defining how we spend it, we're defining,
Well, we are defining specifically how
yeah,
to spend it.
we're defining how we spend it, but we're not defining it based on what we're spending it on.
So secondly, if we have this capture, on the millage itself, is that going to enable us to apply for more grants?
That's a tricky question, because I can't say that I've ever said no on a grant application. What it's saying is, this is what it really comes down to. We do not collect a general fund mill. I'm proud of that, and I say it too much. But the fact that we don't collect a general, understand, if we were collecting 0.7, we're probably pulling in darn near $1 million a year, right? I'm saying with this, I'm not asking for $1 million a year, even though all of our peers around us ask for that. But I can't continue to not have a general fund millage and fund grant match. So the roads are a perfect example. We've got Jefferson down by Shook, Jefferson that's under construction now, and North River Road. And those were all, we got $10 for $1. But that $1 added up to be 1.8 million. That's a lot of money when you don't have, so what I'm saying is we're gonna get to the point where it's not a question of saying, will I apply for more grants? It's a question of saying, will I get to another grant and say, I can't apply for it because I have to, if I have a choice between applying for a grant or running the treasurer's office, running elections, doing assessing, those are core functions of the township. I'm getting to the point, I feel like we are, where we're spending money on grants and everybody loves them, but it's draining our general fund.
No, I was going to say, the main reason I asked those two questions is basically because, I don't know how everybody else feels on the board, probably 85% of the questions that I get asked is about infrastructure and roads. That seems like it's a big buzz point in terms of complaints within, so that's why I was asking, if this is going to allow us to do more things with that money and apply for more grants so that we can so we can basically focus on those issues that people have been complaining about in general.
And I guess and I know this sounds like I'm holding someone hostage. But I guess the answer to the question is, I want to continue to apply, but again, just 3 roads, 1.8 million, that should be in our rainy day fund. You know what I mean? We're not going forward, we're going backward. The state reduced our revenue sharing. The state decided, which I think is a wonderful idea, to give disabled veterans a tax break. But they didn't use their money to do it. They just said, Harrison Township, you'll just collect less money, less for fire, less for police, because we're gonna reduce that. I love the idea, but I would love if the state would vote on ways to spend their money instead of taking away local revenue. And what's happening is we're seeing that erosion. So I've got the state taking money away from me. I've got the state putting grant match requirements just to get roads fixed. We're getting squashed. So we either put it out to voters. If this board chooses to move this forward, we'll probably come back with a discussion and maybe some informational, maybe an informational piece that we mail to voters explaining what this millage question is and why we're asking it, so that we're not saying, we can't say you should vote for it, vote against it. We can say, this is what it'll do, and here's some data on prior, grant monies that were spent and what those requirements are.
This is going to take a lot of education.
I think so, and
Residents, all they're going to hear is millage.
Sure.
All they're going to hear.
And I get it, and there's a point you get to where, I'm certainly not suggesting that I'm a cardiologist, but I trust my cardiologist. The guy says, hey, this is what you need to do, then that's what you do.
Right.
This is us trying to say to residents, listen, I don't want a general fund millage. We got rid of it 14 years ago. I think that's a reasonable thing. I think that makes us very accountable to the residents. But in those 14 years, I've seen more and more funds, instead of flowing to us directly, they flow to us with a restriction. That restriction is matching money. It's making us compete against each other. Some of our peers actually engage lobbyists. Several of our peer communities engage lobbyists. They're paying $40,000, $50,000 a year to an agency to try to say, well, give money to my municipality instead of that municipality. It's getting very, very
Give my
competitive.
money back to me.
Correct, yeah.
And you pay this
Please
guy.
go there and get my money to return it. So, I think this is a reasonable ask, and as Adam said, no is the second best answer. If the voters see this and say, I think it's a bad idea, I respect that. This isn't a tax increase. This is a proposal for a tax increase, and we define how we would spend the money should the voters approve it. And if they say no, you can say, okay, tell me the last time you got to vote on your state sales, state income tax or your federal income tax.
From an investment perspective, Mr. West talked about 3 projects that we just paid off that we did get finished for. Roads are either in progress or completed, which is wonderful. We get a lot of good feedback. But from an investment perspective, I had to liquidate $1.8 million in an investment because we don't have some type of funding source as we're proposing. And I know darn well that at the end of the year, my investment income is going to be down. So this not only hurts our investment income, right? Because we have to fund it out of general fund, and that's writing back. So the more general fund that goes towards the grant, we lose money there as well. So I mean, it's sort of a double-edged sword. So, to me, it makes sense. Education is going to be key. I think people need to understand that this is for grants only, because as soon as you say that, people may say, oh, good, maybe I might have my road done. So you just have to be very cautious on how it gets rolled out, how it's communicated. But I think if this would come to fruition, I think it would be a win-win. That's just my thought.
Any further discussion, or is there a motion?
make the motion to adopt the resolution to place a grant match millage on the November 3rd ballot. Was it
Point three.
.3?
Point three mils is what I'm asking. Sir.
Yep.
Is there support?
I'll support.
Right. We had a fair amount of discussion, but if there is any more, I'm open to it. Hearing none and seeing no public comment, Mr. Witt, will you please take the roll call?
Yes, Mr. Backens?
Yes.
Ms. Rabeau?
Yes.
Mr. Brado?
Yes.
Mr. Olgiati?
Yes.
Mr. Tominello?
Yes.
Mr. Witt? Yes. Mr. Burkowski?
Yes. Okay, next on the agenda is item I, which is public comment. So we'll open the floor for public comment. It could be about any subject you wish, and we ask that you try to limit it to 5 minutes in length.
C. William Bardell, 30-year resident, clean-cut, do-gooder boy next door, clean up, fix up, people helping people. I want to remind everyone, please check out Save Lake St. Clair on Facebook, a little bit of reading material for you there. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about the blight that's been going on in this township. I have no problem with anything other than Oakland County dumping in our lake. That's one problem, and the other problem is the blight. Now, I'm not talking about getting in the weeds. I'm just talking about normal stuff. So let's say you're cooking a roast in your kitchen and you're looking out your back window, or you're washing your pots and pans, and you see a house that's half painted, not the same color, different color for going on 2 years. What do you believe is the threshold for something that basic? Okay? So then, if I sit in my family room, I look to the right, and these are not hardship issues. This is normal, I think normal people, I would assume. You look to your right, you sit in your $1,500 chair, and you look to your right, and this guy's got a blue tarp on his roof for 2 years. Okay? Do I spend another $20,000 for more marble in my house, or do I just consider Harrison Township a ghetto? How are we going to do this? Are we going to take care of the blight? Do I have to be the bad cop? I'm trying to be a nice guy, but as you stated before, all the inspectors wear all the hats, and they're all inspectors. They're all ordinance enforcement officers. They have the high-tech stuff. You take a picture of it, you send it in, and you can tell you what ordinance it's violating. So what is it? I mean, I could see 3 months, your house half painted. I don't know. You get called to the glass plant, you're working 7/12 for 5 months. But 2 years? Or the other guy, takes off, goes to his cottage, got new cars all the time, going out on his boat, but he's got a tarp on his roof. So I look at that. So what is the threshold for enforcing these ordinances? I mean, you could talk about the judge and this and that, but this is blight. This is blight. So is it fair to everybody? You look at a township like Plymouth Township. They got older houses, but there's no blight. So what's going on with the blight? Is there some kind of romance with blight or something in this township? I'm not understanding it. I mean, and you talk to Brent Condon, he acts like he did something wrong. I don't think he's a people person. I know the other kid, Kyle, he's pretty good. He's very respectful. He listens. But the other guy, I think I don't know. I don't think he's good with people. I think that if you complain to him, then he makes the complainer the bad guy. So I'm just trying to understand what the culture is in this ordinance enforcement thing. You can say, well, you got to complain, but like I said, everybody sees it. I mean, can you have a tarp on your roof for 3 months or 2 years? Can you have your house half painted a different color for 2 years or for 3 months? I mean, what kind of a township are we going to have is what I'm asking you. So please be very thoughtful about this, and please, let's try to do something positive. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, we'll close public comment, move back to board comment. Is there any board comment? Hearing none, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Right, is there support?
Support.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, board.